Hello artist, welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm going to share with you some thoughts of this process, which was using a palette knife to paint this scene. If you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Irit. I'm usually a watercolor and mixed media artist based in Austria in Europe. And on my channel, I share my artsy adventures. And today I'm exploring a medium that I'm less familiar with. I mean, I have painted some paintings, but I wouldn't say that I'm like still really learning and exploring this medium with many difficulties. So hopefully I can chat with you about this and any helpful information that you have about using oils and how you make that process easier for you. I would love to hear that in the comments, but also even if you're not using oils, I think you will enjoy this video because I'm also going to talk about and show you how I use reference photos sort of as just like a jumping point. And what I'm more in tune with is enjoying the process and and trying to come up with color stories that I love. And I'm not sure that I managed to do this here, but we can talk about that. Now, the photo that I'm using, I want to say it's from Slovenia. It's a photo that I took and is actually included in my newest ebook. If you've already gotten the Creative Lens ebook, then first of all, thank you. And secondly, you might be interested in this one as well. This is more than 100 photos, but the difference between the new book is that it is in landscape orientation. So the original landscape, the original Creative Lens was 8.5 by 11, and this one is 11 by 8.5. And again, it has like a selection of different photos that are copyright free, which means you can use them to sketch and paint, and credit is always appreciated, but not necessary. And I just find many times having a collection of reference photos that were curated with the artist in mind, it's just really helpful when I want to paint something and I'm not either like in that complete creative space, or, you know, I'm not really in the mood to paint completely from my imagination, or maybe I need some help. And you will see that I'm using this as kind of like a starting point. The colors that I'm using, these are just like regular oil paints, and I have a lot of issues with oils. But wait, before I get into the oils, I just want to tell you that I kind of prepped my oil canvas paper pad type of thing with, you can see, just with acrylic paint to tone it. So this way I don't have to worry if something is showing up, because it's actually, I think, like an interesting pop of color to show up. I mean, if I don't manage to cover every millimeter of this paper. So that's why I decided to tone it, and I decided to tone it with kind of a complementary color to the main colors of this photo, which are, you know, shades of like blue and turquoise. So I mostly did that initial layer in an orangey, neon-y type of color. Now let's talk a little bit about the process here. The goal for me in this painting was to familiarize myself a bit more with the process of using a palette knife with oils. Here's the thing. I actually I can't say that I'm super in, like, that I really want to paint entire paintings with a palette knife, but I find the whole process of using brushes with oil just really frustrating. I think the medium in itself is beautiful, and I think there is something you can get with oils that you really can't get with acrylics, and of course not with watercolors. That like luscious, glowing, intense color is only achievable, I feel, in oils. Of course, you can use all kinds of like glossy varnishes with acrylics, but it's just not the same. And the more I kind of go into museums and look closely at some of my favorite artists, which are the Impressionists and the Fauvists, like the more I look at their work, it's kind of, it really makes me want to paint more with oils, but then I'm confronted with all of the challenges of, mostly for me, it's brush control, paint application, and then there's the whole thing of like cleanup. If you want to paint kind of impressionist style, then usually that means using more paint. Like they didn't work in these like very delicate, thin glazes. They worked in heavier paint, and I just find that with a brush, it gets just like really messy. And so I've really been struggling. I know that there are all kinds of like solvents, and I've been actually trying to use water soluble oils with, like partial success. So it's just like a lot of struggles all at once while trying to learn the medium and kind of improve my skills. And also, I don't know, I guess I haven't really found in oils. I could definitely replicate my watercolor situation or my acrylic situation. I've been really wanting to work with a more limited palette in oils, kind of to simplify things for me. But I'm also, for me, like color is such an important thing. And so having to like mix up a lot of colors that I love, as opposed to, using perhaps a less limited palette and more paint like straight from the tube. It's just, I don't know, I just haven't found yet my happy place with oils. And even this process, I would have to say, like those initial stages of covering the paper, I kind of struggled, and I think I was mostly struggling to just find colors that I really, really loved. I think I might have, there's like a lot of exploring that I feel like I need to do. I'm thinking maybe for me it is more suitable just with the kind of process that I enjoy. It might be better for me to start with acrylics and then, just use for those more like final stages oils with a palette knife. That might be it. That's what I've done in the past and with most of my oil work, and I really enjoyed it. So this is like what you're seeing here is just a lot of kind of learning, and I find this all to be quite challenging, especially when I have already mediums that I'm much more comfortable with. So it's also like just like that, sitting down and really challenging myself and really kind of struggling, trying different things, trying to figure out what works for me. It's just, sometimes I just rather not struggle so much, but I'm definitely kind of keeping that goal in mind, which is to kind of find my way with this medium. So that's where I'm at now. As for this specific process, I think at some point I was trying to I guess do things a little bit my own way, and it was just like a lot of things to consider. It was what kind of process I enjoy, and then how loyal do I want to be to the painting, and then also having to figure out how to control the palette knife, and also with the color mixing, when I wasn't like really, really in love with many of the colors in this piece. And I think that was probably, it's just like one of those things that I really need to be more like vigilant about, to really, really not allow myself to put down colors that I'm not absolutely in love with, because that never ends well for me. Like if the colors are not right, it's very rare that I will like the piece. So it was just a little bit of a struggle. And I think at some point, what helped me was really kind of letting go of the photo. You'll see that as this progresses, I start to really kind of, what's the word? Like freelance, like not freelance, like what's the word that I'm looking for? What do you say? Improvise, right? I'm just starting to take some hints from the photo, maybe just like a bit of colors or color application. But at some point I decided I'm not really interested in creating a very accurate version of this photo, even though I really, really like it. But I think with a palette knife, it was just too challenging. Like I just don't have that level of control. And I didn't feel like bringing in, again, some sort of like solvents or brushes or anything like that into this. Which would have allowed me more control. So at some point I was like, okay, I'm just going to start focusing on mixing colors that I like and adding them to my painting. And that is probably where things started to get a little bit more enjoyable. So it's sort of like a cycle that now I think I have better skills to recognize. And usually when I learn something new, like a new skill to me, I will find a couple of resources or take a few online courses. And that's where I get into that trap of, trying to do things like the instructor. And of course, there is a place for that. And I think it's important because, there are people with a lot more skill than me, and there's a lot to learn from them. But there's also, I always have to like remind myself that just because something works for someone else, even if this someone is more experienced than me, it doesn't mean that it will work for me. And so I, reserve the right to try something and then put it aside and understand that it's just not something that's working for me. So I'm just trying to think how this palette knife work, which I love that for oils, because that just eliminates the whole need of like solvents and brushes and like all and cleaning brushes and all that part. So I'll probably have to come up with some sort of like a hybrid process where I can put down a lot of the color and the layers with acrylic and then come in at the end with oils. And here you can see it's starting to become like something different. I'm just focusing on applying the color. I'm trying not to think too much about the wasteful nature of painting this way. It is like by default, it has to be sort of wasteful, because if you want clean colors, you have to kind of clean your palette knife quite often. And that is, you have to kind of waste some paint, but it's like a necessary part of the process. I'm not saying it's like easy for me to accept that, because oils are not cheap. I should probably get some student grade oils just for like playing and experimenting, so I feel less precious about them. Again, for me, the problem is that I have such specific color preferences that I know some of the colors that I like won't exist in student grade paints. But nowadays there are really, really great options for more affordable paint, even oil paint. And I can always, just add like one or two colors that are more unique, maybe from a more expensive brand, and still use the majority of like student grade paints. So I should probably do that, because this was something that held me back also in the past, like not using my best supplies because I didn't want to waste them on making, kind of those first brush miles or just those kind of initial studies, experiments. But there's also something to be said about using like the supplies that you really, really love and get excited about. So it's a balance, but if it is a newer medium to you, it's probably best to use high quality, cheaper, or like student grade supplies, and save the expensive paint for slightly more advanced work, I would say. But of course, you know your budget, you know your limitations, and if you have beautiful artist grade paint that you want to use and enjoy, then that like I'll be the last person to tell you not to do that. So here you can see how things are starting to become a bit more let's say intuitive, and you can see at the photo, like you can see the photo, oh, this ripped. This was quite disappointing. I didn't even think this paper could rip, but it did. And this is like painter's tape. Very, very annoying. You can see how my sketch or study is like a very abstracted version of the photo, and I'm totally okay with that. And I wanted to show you that you can do that. Also midway, you can change your mind and you can just have fun and enjoy the process and experiment and play, and use reference photos maybe in this sort of way. Maybe you didn't think about this, just as like a starting off point, to use the composition as inspiration or the color stories inspiration. I actually really like the colors in this photo. You can see it was quite a cloudy, rainy day. I like the mood of it, and I absolutely did not translate into my painting, but that's okay. But maybe I should, because I enjoy looking at the photo. So we'll see. I went obviously a bit brighter. I think maybe I should have kept the sky kind of less colorful, or I could still go back and add maybe some gray shades. I don't know. I think maybe also the values are a little bit off. Maybe the skies should have been like a little bit lighter. I think that would have improved the painting. But maybe I'll just try this again and see what happens. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any tips on, using oils, using palette knives, I would love to know. And check out the Creative Lens, the Landscape Edition. I will see, so hopefully it's already available when I post this. Video. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon in another video. I do have a couple of things on their way to me. Actually, one shipment is less exciting, but it's kind of like a couple of big canvases and a few mediums and oils that I want to explore. And then the other one is very exciting. It's the granulating watercolors, the new granulating watercolors from Holbein. They are finally in Europe, and I've ordered the set. So I will swatch that and share that with you, and we can all decide what we think about them. I'm really looking forward to getting them. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.